Now, Greg loves finding a good bargain. So when he came across a box of old film at a flea market for just $11, he bought it. What he found, never before seen footage of the Beatles down under 60 years ago.
Without music, the world would be dead.
There are places I remember all my life.
You have a soundtrack to your life, and mine started with the Beatles and has continued.
When Greg Pirano was 11 years old, he climbed a mountain in his hometown of Picton, New Zealand, hopeful of hearing the Beatles play live.
And we figured if we went up and the wind was blowing right, we might be able to hear some of the concerts. So about 12 of us went out, like girls and boys, and of course we couldn't hear them, but it was just that we knew that they were 100 kilometres away doing a show.
60 years on, another adventure to a flea market in Sydney accidentally brought Greg closer to his childhood idols.
I was with a friend of mine, Dane. He went, "Oh, do you want to go to Surrey Hills?" And I went, "Yeah, sure." Oh, look, there's a whole box of 8mm film here. And it's $11. I said, "Is this $11? And the guy went, "Yeah." And I said, "This could be really interesting stuff." So I bought it. And then Dane and I had a copy, and I pulled out a box and I went, "Look, that's got the Beatles written on it." And he went, "Oh, wouldn't be the Beatles." And I went, "No." There were 14 of them.
Okay, 14.
In the box that I bought, yeah.
Double 8mm roll.
In one of those golden boxes from yesteryear, an unexpected treasure.
I sat down and I went, the guy's on stage. He's filming on stage.
As Greg and his friend projected the film, they suddenly realised it was the Beatles, and like we'd rarely seen the Fab Four. Ringo, Paul, George and John, up close and personal at Sydney Stadium in 1964.
And it's really good, beautiful black and white 8mm quality, and I just went, and it just brought back all those memories. Paul and George sharing a mic and John reacting with them and between them and Ringo, and you see a band, you know, in its formative stage.
The film had no sound, but the words came flooding back to Greg.
There was that moment where George and Paul, like everyone who watches it goes, "Woo!" because they're doing the backup vocal. So you know exactly what the song is, which is another thing about the Beatles. You don't really have to hear the sound, you know what they're sort of playing at the time.
Love me do. Whoa.
The concert looked like it had been covered by every camera in town. Beatlemania hit hard, but no one seemingly had access like the man behind the camera in Greg's video.
To watch it, it was just magic, absolute magic, to see that band and it being a band you loved. I mean, I think I was supposed to be the person to discover it, you know. So it was an incredible moment to see that it was really the Beatles.
Made even more special by the fact Greg is a former musician. He was there on percussion for the formative years of one of Australia's greatest bands, the Hunters and Collectors.
Would you say it's the best $11 you've ever spent?
Quite possibly. Yes, it probably was, actually.
Greg has a knack for finding pots of gold.
Don't tell me you got that at a market as well.
That was $25.
I'm taking you shopping, Greg.
He'd also searched for the true owner of the footage. Gil Walquist, who'd put his name on the container, turned out to be a music writer for the Sun Herald. Sadly, though, he'd passed.
Being that person who could actually get that close to the Beatles. I mean, there's stages where he's standing in front of George and Paul, who was singing straight to him. I think he was a very good filmmaker. I think he edited in camera, so he shot the beginning, he might have shot all these segments over 3 nights, and then he's got them coming off stage, so it's a film rather than just random footage.
With Gil's family giving Greg its blessing for him to keep the film, it's now a case of what to do with it.
I mean, it could be worth anything, but we've had offers from people and people are sort of interested in it.
Greg hopes to find a home that'll allow others to enjoy the film. After all, he says, memories are just as precious.
I've gone back and listened to the songs, and there's just those songs that almost make you cry.
I know I'll often stop and think about them. In my life, I love you more.
You don't have to be incredibly wealthy to listen to music. It's there, and I think it's one of the most important elements of our lives.
In my life, I love you more.
And who doesn't love the Fab Four? You just missed my singing too. And Greg, what a find.